Well, hello, everybody. So glad to have you here. I'm Amy Rodquist-Kodet. I am a health coach and wellness specialist for UK Health and Wellness. It's awesome to see some familiar names here, and it's so good to see people that I haven't met yet as well. So, we're going to be talking about sleep today. It's a hot topic, everybody. As the big thing that I do here for UK is I work with clients that are struggling to kind of create some well-being goals and get traction with them. And I'll tell you, sleep is for sure in the top three things that I talk to folks about. So the fact that you're here, just know you are not alone, myself included. I thought of you all last night as I was like, whew, I just broke one of my sleep rules that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. So the goal here isn't to do this perfectly because I know this research, I've studied this, and I'm telling you, I'm looking to get more traction with this myself as well. So a little bit of background, I have my master's degree in holistic health. And like I said, I'm a certified professional health coach. I also am a mom of a teenager and twin toddlers. So sleep, everybody, sleep is at the kind of prime part of my brain that I was like, I need more of it. I need it to be better. And so it's always helpful for me to kind of give presentations like this because it helps me to practice what I preach and to kind of take some of my own medicine. So I'm wondering if you could just drop in the chat, where are your sleep slippery spots? Do you struggle with going to bed? Do you struggle waking up in the middle of the night? Do you struggle, having your devices in your room and you're kind of like on your device till you fall asleep with your phone on your chest? Where is the slippery spot for you? Feel free to take yourself off mute or pop in the chat. Yeah, where's the struggle? I'd love to hear. Kind of helps me kind of know where we're at. Yeah, waking up in the middle of the night, for sure, waking up. Weekends, Jamie, I hear you, throwing off the sleep schedule. Devices, yep. Getting to sleep, trying to quiet the thoughts, absolutely. Waking up at 2-ish, yeah, I call it my 3:33 wake up, because that's usually when I'm waking up. Sharon, we should talk at 2 to 3. We're both in there. Waking up, can't go back to sleep. Yep, okay. Yeah, falling asleep, waking up at 3, devices. I know, Jacob, I feel ya. Waking up in the middle. Dealing with somebody who has menopause, yeah, knowing that that's a big part of sleep disruptions and temperature regulation. Absolutely, Miriam, I see that. Okay. Great. That's actually really, really helpful. And I want to unfortunately say I don't have magic here for you, everybody. I mean, this comes as no surprise, but I feel like there isn't like a like a foolproof 10-point checklist that I can give you and be like, sleep issues averted, no problems here. But my goal is to like look at the research as well as to help you come up with a sleep plan for yourself, both for getting yourself to sleep, kind of the time that you want your head to hit the pillow, as well as how do you work with those midnight wake ups, right? Those early 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning wake ups that can be really anxiety provoking. There is nothing worse than watching the clock spin by and your head is like, why am I not sleeping? I want to be sleeping. I'm going to be so tired tomorrow, right? And we get into the spin. So let's jump to it. Let me just share my screen here. All right. So what we know is that lack of sleep can really contribute to a lack of willpower.
the less we sleep, the less reserves we have for kind of getting ourselves back to sleep and to sleep, and to really keep some of our good sleep hygiene practices. So it's like this double-edged sword. We want to have good sleep habits, and yet we're not sleeping, and so it's hard to have good sleep habits, right? You see the problem here. So we're going to talk about what are some things that we can do to get ourselves to bed earlier, because so many of us, we can't sleep in later in the morning. So our option really is to, how can we get our head on the pillow consistently at a time that works for us? And yet oftentimes we can't, or we don't, right? And for some of us, myself included, a piece of that is the revenge bedtime procrastination. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this, right? That we sacrifice our sleep for leisure time, because for so many of us, we are packed to the gills with activities and responsibilities and family stuff, where we find that it's not until 10:30 at night that we're actually like sitting down and taking some breaths and have some of that me time, right? So we stay up late because it's our only downtime. And for so many of us, myself included, that includes a lot of screens, which can be really problematic. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, because screens tap into our vagus nerve. They are designed to keep us hooked and wired in. So really working with technology is a big part of helping us get better sleep, right? So, and when we're tired, it's really hard to get ourselves to practice some of these sleep hygiene ideas. We have less willpower, which makes it difficult to get ourselves to bed. So what's a person to do? Let's talk about it. So what we know is that, let me see, hold on here, everybody, there we go. How do we get ourselves to bed earlier, and how can we like create a sleep action plan for ourselves that can really support us? So Dr. Ron Friedman is a sleep expert. He's done a lot of work around goal setting and sleep. And what he suggests, first and foremost, is to give yourself a bedtime, just like you did your little kiddos, a specific time when you want your head on the pillow. Something measurable, because so often we'll say like, oh, I gotta get to bed earlier. Oh boy, I was up so late. I gotta get to bed. I can't get to bed so late, right? Well, what does that even mean? So think to yourself right now, on specifically those work nights, what time do you need and want your head to be on the pillow? Not the couch, right? Not the floor, but when do you want your head on the pillow? Because what we're going to do is we're going to start there and work backwards. And sometimes it can be helpful to just kind of do a nighttime audit without making any changes. Just kind of notice, what are your patterns? What are your slippery spots? Maybe you're finding that, you're falling asleep on the couch, or you are, you're on your phone longer than you want to be, or you're doing work emails at 11 p.m. or whatever it is. So before you even start to make any changes, just watch yourself for a few days in a row without judgment, just kind of noticing what's working and what's not working. Where are the parts that are getting a little bit slippery for you? And how can you entice yourself towards bed, right? Because we have all of these other things that are vying for our attention, technology being at the top of the list, right? So what can you do when watching Netflix is way more appealing than being in bed by 11, or doom scrolling on your favorite news source of choice, or, watching your Aunt Bethesda's like Instagram roll feed for her trip to the Bahamas, right? We find ourselves down these technology rabbit holes, and it's tricky because, like we were talking about before, technology is designed to help us stay hooked, right? So what we need to do is to create an enjoyable routine, one that can entice you to wind down, one that enables you to go from activity to rest with predictability. What we want to do is to create a bedtime rhythm and routine that your body can recognize, that it kind of signals to our body, oh, okay, I know what we're doing here. We're getting ready for bed. Let's go. You want it to be consistent, that you can do whether you're on vacation, you're on a work trip, you're at home, that you have these things in place, this progression that your body enjoys and that it recognizes as preparing for sleep. And it's tricky because being tired doesn't guarantee falling asleep, right? How many of you have ever experienced you are exhausted and yet your brain is still racing? So not only does our body need to be ready for sleep, but our mind needs to be ready for sleep. We need to help our brains rest and relax in order to move towards that sleep that we so desire. So, how do we relax before bed? Here are some ideas for you. I am not suggesting that you do all of these things or you will have a bedtime ritual that is far too long and complicated, but just kind of recognize within you what helps you relax. What do you like to do that feels nourishing for yourself? So, for a lot of folks, it's reading something that really lights them up, that makes them happy, right? We're talking about fiction, poetry, philosophy, something spiritual. I wouldn't recommend like a high stakes murder mystery thriller. Sometimes those things can really like amp you up. That's not what we're going for here. That would maybe be like a great afternoon read or a great read at 8, not maybe at 11 or whenever you are trying to go to sleep. Another thing, everybody, is when we're talking about reading something that makes you happy, we're not talking about work. Even if you love your job, I'm going to suggest no working in bed, no prepping for work in bed. All of that can really make your brain definitely like aroused and on high alert. Another important thing is to recognize the temperature. The National Sleep Foundation really recommends keeping your room cool. And what they call cool is between 60 to 67 degrees at night. So for me, like I love the idea of flannel sheets. I actually live in Minnesota, even though I work for UK. I it gets cold here, everybody, and winter is on its way. It was far below freezing this morning, but I can't sleep in flannel sheets. I get far too hot, right? I even took my down comforter off my bed this past winter because I was finding myself waking up sweating. And so kind of recognizing like what is the temperature? What can you do? Some people have fans in their room. Some people sleep in a lighter pajamas. Really recognize that temperature is a big part of helping your body regulate for sleep. And you knew this was coming, but avoiding that blue light at least 30 minutes to bed. Some research suggests 90 minutes, but for sure 30 minutes is your bare minimum here. So why, right? Our technology, our phones, computers, iPads, all of it suppresses our body's melatonin. And melatonin is that hormone that makes us feel sleepy. So when we are experiencing that arousal, it is harder for our brain to enter into that rest state, right? That parasympathetic nervous system can't regulate our body's calm response. So thinking about what can you do to put your technology away, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Another idea is to create a spa-like environment. And what does that mean? That means to create these environmental cues that help your body recognize you're getting ready for sleep, right? So dim the lights. This is something that we started doing with our twins last year, I guess, and it's been really helpful because they recognize I don't even have to say like, "Gentlemen, we're heading to bed." Just dimming the lights. I actually just kind of turn off the overhead lights and just have a few lamps that are on. That works like a charm. And so we've started to do that in the rest of the house of like, okay, how can we begin to trigger that awareness that it's time to go to sleep? Soothing music can do that. Diffusing essential oils, in a little diffuser, or even putting it on your pajamas. Lavender in particular, they've got a lot of sleep blends. All of these are sensorial cues that help your body recognize it's sleep time. Another thing that can really be helpful and restful before bed is a gratitude practice. This is another tool to work with the racing mind. A tool that I like a lot is called Three Good Things. And I will send this to Azetta and Jamie as another resource that you can practice for helping your body and your brain begin to quiet itself. So think about three good things that have happened for you today. I had a client that had a thank you note practice, and she didn't do this every night before bed, but she would keep little postcards on a clipboard by her bed, and she would just write out a quick postcard to the people that she loved, her grandkids, colleagues, friends, neighbors, whomever. She would pick a different person each time, and just a quick like, hey, grateful for you. I have another friend that sends out a nighttime gratitude text to just whoever's on her mind or in her heart, just saying, hey, thinking about you, sweet dreams, hope you're doing well, right? Journaling, really releasing stuff from the day. Oftentimes our brain is holding on to unresolved feelings, difficult stuff that's happened, a hard conversation that you might be ruminating on. Anything you can do to let that stuff go can be really helpful as a tool to support yourself as you're moving towards sleep. Meditation is a big one. There are a ton of apps out there, right, that focus on helping the body and the brain relax before bed. So anything that can support, like the nighttime bed stories, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Any sort of breathing practice, body scans, muscle relaxations. I really like Insight Timer. They have got it's a great app. Calm app is a great one. Maybe drop an app or something that you like to use for bedtime in the chat. Would love to hear about what you find helpful to help your body rest and relax before bed. Experts suggest that you give yourself at least 30 minutes to wind down before attempting to sleep, right? So my goal is to have my head on the pillow by 11:30. I I got a teenager who really likes to talk about her day, which is awesome. Unfortunately, she does not like to talk about her day before like 10 p.m. Why we can't have these good conversations at 6, I am not sure, but I'll like connect with her as I can. But my goal is my head needs to be on the pillow by 11:30, which means our conversation needs to be over at 11, right? So oftentimes having an alarm that lets you know when it is time for your bedtime routine to begin. Because for me, if I don't set an alarm, my body just plows straight through that 11 o'clock zone, right? So ask yourself, like, how much time do you need to wind down? And when I mean wind down, that's what I'm talking about: putting away the devices, turning down the lights, starting your, some quiet music, brushing your teeth, washing your face, picking out your outfit for the next day, whatever you need to do, whatever is in your routine, set an alarm, and don't have it be like some obnoxious, like beep, 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 like have something that actually puts a smile on your face. Maybe have one of your favorite songs or some soothing chimes or whatever is going to kind of like light you up for you, think about what is something that you want to use for an alarm and what time do you want to set it to begin to initiate that wind down process. And keep this process a drama-free zone, right? So we have a rule at our house that there is no divisive, difficult topics that can be broached after 10 p.m., right? Because there is nothing worse than getting into like a World War III conversation with a family member right before bed. It's not great. And it kind of gets your whole system really charged up. And we're looking for the opposite, right? So think about like those boundaries, turning those phone alarms off, letting everybody know, hey, I totally talked to you about this, but we're going to have to wait till tomorrow, or write it down and we'll discuss this in the morning, or whatever it is. Pick a time on the calendar to talk about it. No work prep, everybody, right? Keeping this boundary for yourself around how do you want to create rest and this feeling of kind of serenity and peace as you help your body regulate and move towards bed. Another piece that is really important is having a sense of where your devices are going to go. It is in all of the literature, all of the recommendations that you put your device outside of your bedroom. If, you know, a lot of times we use our devices as an alarm. So this might mean going to Target and getting an old school alarm clock, or at the very least, if for whatever reason you just really feel like you have to have your phone in your room, put it, you know, far away from the bed so that you actually have to stand up and go get it, and that isn't easy to mindlessly kind of scroll through. So this idea of troubleshooting those 3 a.m. wake ups are the trickiest. And the research really points this out, that this is tough and there are no magical answers here. But here are some helpful things that I have found and that a lot of my clients have found, and some things that I've done in some of the research that I've looked at. Is number one, helping your brain let go of the worry. Because for most of us, when we wake up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whenever you're waking up, your brain isn't quiet. It's probably, if it's anything like mine, it is like going a million miles a minute, reminding me of everything I need to do tomorrow, reminding me of the worst experiences that I maybe had 20 years ago, right? The brain is wound up. And so a thing that can really help with that is what I call a worry dump. It's this idea that you keep a little notebook by your bed and you dump all of the things that are like spinning in your brain. I really like to use something called the circle of control. If you've been in any of my classes before, you know this is a favorite of mine. And it's pretty simple. You just draw a big circle, and on the inside of that circle, you write things that are in my control, things I can control. And you know where this is going. On the outside of the circle, you write things that I can't control, things that are out of my control. And then you dump and sort and just begin to take all of the stuff that is mumboing and jumboing around and divide it into being in the circle of what you can control or out of it. And like, hot news flash, anything that's already happened, anything that has to do with other people and their thoughts and ideas and opinions about anything, all that stuff goes on the outside of the circle, right? The only stuff that goes on the inside of the circle are things that you can actually influence, things that you can actually tangibly do and say and have some agency over. And sometimes I find it really therapeutic to like go through the outside of that circle and just like cross it off. I find that to be really helpful. And what I like about the inside of the circle is it will be there in the morning. And it's amazing what happens for the brain when it has a place to dump the stuff that's spinning. And it's almost as if it kind of knows like, okay, that's there. I've done the dump. It will be there tomorrow. And it's much easier for me to kind of let go, and rest. And as the brain kind of brings it up again, just say, yeah, I got it. It's on the sheet of paper. We'll deal with it in the morning, right? There is nothing we can do at 3:30 a.m. There's a really interesting book if you are kind of like a mantra or a phrase type of person. There's an interesting book called 200 Phrases for a Deep and Peaceful Sleep, and I actually got it from the library. I thought it was interesting and helpful. Some of the ones that I really liked is, I'm light enough for sleep to carry me, or in this moment I am well and I am supported. The one that I probably use the most is, I'll sleep when my body is ready to sleep. Because what is so difficult is being in the early morning hours, knowing you've got a busy day ahead, and knowing that you can't sleep and then you aren't sleeping, and just the anxiety begins to spin and spin and spin. And so anything that you can do to help your body rest and recognize, like, it's okay, I'm up. I don't want to be up, but the reality is, here I am, right? And saying, I will sleep when my body is ready to sleep. I will be able to figure this out when my body is ready to sleep, right? And see if you can open yourself up to the allowing of the reality that you are up. And like any sort of kind of like critical thoughts that are spinning around, you know, are not helpful. And so giving yourself permission and that self-compassion around, yeah, this is hard, but I'm going to be okay. So having some sort of mantra or phrase that you can offer yourself in the middle of the night, something that feels genuine, right? You don't want something that feels Faker McFakerton. So what is a soothing word or phrase that you can offer yourself that gives yourself permission to be in the reality that you are in? And see if you can help to calm your body and your mind in that way. Another tool I like a lot, this comes from Dr. Andrew Weil. He is a Western medical doctor and researcher at the University of Arizona in Tucson. He also has like a 40-year meditation practice and yogi practice. So he kind of blends Eastern Ayurvedic and yoga philosophy with Western medicine. And he is, I think, really skillful at using this as a way to help your body rest and relax before sleep. And here's how it goes. You're going to invite your body to take a breath in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Here's why this is important. What we know about that parasympathetic nervous system and helping your body, latch on and trigger that calm response is the magic is really in the exhale, or any sort of manipulation that you do with the breath. The inhale is important for sure, but the magic and the triggering of your body's calm response happens in the hold and the exhale. So this practice has a pretty significant hold and exhale. And from experience, if this is the first time you are trying this breath, you may experience some resistance because your brain does not like holding its breath for a long time, right? Its goal is to keep you alive and it likes to breathe. And so just know, if you are new to this practice and you feel some distress, I promise it diminishes the more you practice it. But of all the breathing tools out there, this one is the most helpful for me. So I thought we could practice it together. I'm gonna lead us through it. Let's do it 3 times. The first 2 times I'll count us out, and the last time you'll do it on your own. So just like take a little, like move your chair back or step back wherever you are. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you, or you can just kind of soften them in wherever you are. And let's just, before we begin to like manipulate our breath into the 4-7-8, let's just take some breaths together, just breathing in and breathing out at your regular pace. Just inviting your body and your brain to be here now. And when you're ready, let's begin with a 4-second inhale and hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale for 8. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. Last round on your own. All right, come on back. And I'd love to hear about what this experience was like for you. What did you think of the 4-7-8 breath? Did you like it? Did you not like it? It's okay either way. Yeah, okay. Some relaxing. Peggy says, wow. Okay, great. And like I said, if you felt some distress with that, it's all right. I promise it gets easier and much more accessible and available to you the more you practice with it. But yeah, it can be. Oh, okay. Sean was saying before I did the 7-4-8 instead. This method is way different. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I've heard Dr. Wiles say that you can even start with a shorter amount. The goal here is that your inhale be half of what your exhale is, right? So you could even do like a 2, 3, 4 or something, right? Like breathe in for 2, hold for 3, exhale for 4 in the beginning as you're just having some practice with this. Tao was saying deep breathing is good, but I don't like counting. Yeah. Tao, a lot of people don't, right? And so I know counting for some people can be helpful because it helps their brain practice. When I do this, I certainly don't count out loud, but kind of finding what works for you, playing with this, experimenting with this, is something that can be customized for what is kind of nourishing for you. Yeah, Sharon was saying, done this before, breathing's helpful. Yeah, okay, beautiful. All right, let me just get a few more things here. Adult bedtime stories or meditation apps. What do you guys like? I will send this to Azetta and Jamie as well, and they can distribute this out. I've got some some interesting bedtime stories. Have any of y'all used this before? They are mundane and boring. So you can think about bedtime stories for kids. These are for adults, and they might be talking to you about, oh, I listened to one about a paper factory once, right? Or like a tour around a neighborhood, and they were talking about stoplights and, like just very mundane things. And they usually start off and they'll tell the story and then they'll tell it again, even slower. And it's something that is very low arousal for the brain, very mundane, and there's nothing very interesting about it. And I really like it. And I've had some clients really like it too. So that may be something to try at the 3 a.m. wake up. Meditation apps as well. Here's what's tricky about it. These apps are on a device and the devices keep us awake. So I have like from 2 phones ago, I use a phone that just has my Calm app on it, but it doesn't have any social media. It has no news outlets. It's got no Twitter feed, right? So if you need a device or if you find a device to be helpful, I would really, really, really recommend using something that isn't filled with the stuff that gets you down the rabbit hole of social media or work or whatever, right? Um, so if you can have a device-free way of caring for yourself and putting yourself back to sleep, great. That's probably preferred. If you do use a device, just word to the wise, be careful and have some boundaries for yourself. Another thing that the research really recommends is to get out of bed. If you've been laying there for more than 20 minutes, you move to a different location, right? What we want is we want our body to perceive sleeping with our bed. And so moving to the couch, moving to a different room, keeping the lights off or as low as possible, not watching YouTube, all of those things are going to be really helpful for those, middle of the night wake ups. A book that I think is really, really interesting is it was written by Ariana Huffington. She was the founder of the Huff Post. She actually had just this wild situation happen to her. She was so sleep deprived. She actually fell asleep at her desk, hit her head, got a concussion and a minor brain injury, and was like, whoa, some things have really got to change. And she went on this massive research and actually wrote this book all about better sleep. And she, her target audience was college students, right? And so she did this massive worldwide tour to colleges all over the country and outside of the US to really help them talk about good sleep practices. And it really revolutionized her life. So a lot of the stuff we've already talked about. A couple of things that I will highlight is your caffeine and your alcohol. Research suggests no caffeine after 2. For some people who metabolize caffeine even slower, it might be noon or even earlier. My mom basically can't have caffeine after 10 in the morning. So if caffeine affects you, watch out for that chocolate, watch out for those teas that have some caffeine in them. And alcohol, although alcohol will make you feel sleepy, it really disrupts your body's ability to get to those deeper REM sleep levels, and it jumbles it up and will make your night waking worse. So maybe play with that a little bit of noticing when you have alcohol, especially in the evenings, how does that affect your sleep? Is there any connection there for you? The research really suggests no pets in bed, which is tricky if you love to have Mr. Snuffles there with you, or your cat or your dog. You may not remember waking up, but there's a lot of research that suggests just the jostling or the animals coming up or coming down or turning around on the bed, right, will wake you up out of a deep sleep and your body doesn't go back in as easily. Pajamas, night dresses, special t-shirts, sleep-friendly clothing. I need to take my own medicine on this. How many nights do I fall asleep in my gym clothes or even what I wore to bed? Or what I wore throughout the day. So having clothes dedicated for sleeping is huge. It's another way that your body kind of recognizes, it's sleep time. Right? So those are some of the ways that can be helpful. You can look at this on your own a little bit later. Lastly, this idea of waking up, right? Buying a louder alarm clock. If you're using your phone, changing up the ringtones. There's some really interesting, they're kind of pricey, but alarm clocks that use natural light, or I guess it's artificial light, but that is supposed to mimic natural light, and it starts small and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter so that the time that you want to wake up, it's at full capacity. Those are really interesting. Leaving your blinds open, eating breakfast is a way to help your body kind of naturally feeling like this consistent wake up and hunger at a specific time. And the weekends are tricky. So the research suggests that you don't want to get out of your sleep cycle, whatever you use for your weekday, you do not want to go out either earlier or later by an hour because it really messes you up. So right, staying awake on the weekend sends kind of your brain into a new scheduling system. So on Mondays, 6 a.m. can feel like 4 a.m. So just kind of notice even though that desire is to sleep in so much later on the weekends and to catch up, know that you can be paying for it because it kind of like shifts your body's circadian rhythm out of whack. So the more you can keep those sleep times and wake up times consistent and at its max, just alter them by an hour, the easier it's going to be for kind of that Monday morning. So, kind of lastly, thinking about what's your sleep action plan? Ask yourself, write this down. What's your bedtime? What time do you want to be in bed, head on pillow? How are you going to relax before your head hits the pillow, right? So, what is the time that you want to start getting ready for bed and starting your sleep routine? What resonated with you? What are some of those tips that you want to try? What sounded interesting? And where are your slippery slots going to be? Where do you anticipate having trouble? One thing that both my colleague Jackie Carroll and I do, we do a lot of well-being consults for sleep support. So if you want to reach out and schedule a sleep consult, it's technically a well-being consult, with myself or with my colleague Jackie, please do so. They're free, 60-minute session, and we can go over your sleep action plan, figure out where are those tricky spots going to be for you, what support do you need, maybe get into maybe that middle of the night wake ups that you're struggling with. Let's talk about it. Would love to. And I also want to always say that, like, talk with your doctor, talk with your primary care physician around what's going on for you. You might need some deeper support, right? Checking out for sleep apnea or sleep disturbances, having a sleep study done. All of that can be really important when you're needing, some more deeper sleep support. So I'm going to open it up for questions. What's going in your minds? Yeah, what you got? Yeah, Joseph was saying, wouldn't your device defeat the purpose because of the blue screen? Yeah, Joseph, great question. So there is that night setting, right? And so you want to make sure that your phone is on that night setting. So it doesn't completely eliminate all the blue light, but it's going to be that dark, dark, dark background. So it's not going to kind of stimulate the brain in the same ways. But yeah, ideally, no screens are best for sure. And so just like listening to something instead of looking at something is going to be way better. Sean was saying, I like to pick out, fun fantasy or ASMR videos and play them at night. It keeps my thoughts together and helps me relax for sleep. It's not device free, but I keep it away from bed. Beautiful. Yeah, find what works for you. I've had a couple of clients love ASMR, right? If you're not even sure what Sean and I are talking about, look it up on YouTube. It's very sensorial as a way to, people find it really relaxing with different sounds. So really, really some cool stuff. Sharon's spouse snoring, how to fix that, not disrupt sleep. Yeah, relocating. I would say if your spouse is open to having a sleep study done, that is what, might be a good first step, or relocating. I know that there's sometimes a lot of taboo, right, around partners sleeping in the same bed together, but if it is really disrupting your sleep, it's definitely something to think about, and how could that work for you, for sure. Amanda was saying, do you have tips for effective naps? Sometimes a quick 15-minute is helpful. Other times on weekends, it turns into 3 hours. Yeah. Amanda, oh my goodness, is this controversial? There's a lot of conflicting research out there. So I don't have a solid answer for you. The one thing that I do know is that short naps overall seem to be best, right? Stuff that's under 30 minutes. There are some people out there, myself not included, that can take a 3-hour nap and still like function and go to bed. But for a lot of us, a longer nap in the afternoon is going to really disrupt that body's sleep schedule. So I think playing with it, but a lot of people swear by that 15 to 30-minute nap. And even allowing yourself to get rest, right? So even if you don't sleep during that time, having just the space that's conducive, dark, eye patch, all of that can be helpful to just allow your body to recharge a little bit. Yeah, I think so. I think it is not to get too deep into the sleep, into that REM sleep. I think so. Yeah. And to, yeah, not throw off the rest of the circadian rhythm for the evening. Yep. Hey, great. Tell I'm so glad that the idea of a gratitude practice was helpful. Yeah, definitely give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Oh, interesting. Alicia said, I've heard if you take a nap to do it before noon. Is that true? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't read that, but like I said, there's a lot of strong opinions about napping. I really think that part of this might be detective on your part of figuring out what works for you, right? So can a 15 to 30-minute power nap work for you at 2? Does it have to be before 12? Kind of get curious and recognize like what's helpful for you and what's not, because it sounds like with naps in particular, it really does depend on the individual. Great. Hey, Amanda, so glad that that was helpful for you. And like I said, everybody, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, set up a, a sleep session with me via a well-being consult, and would love to connect. Sleep is one of my favorite things to talk about with clients. So I always enjoy a sleep conversation. So we'll look forward to talking with you then.